I don't have a lot to say by way of an introduction. Here are some books coming out in February that I'm really excited for, and I think you should be too. Except some of these books did come out in January, and I didn't cover them, I didn't read them, but I'm still really excited to check them out, and I think that they should be on your radar. I'm gonna get the elephant in the room out of the room first by pointing out that I didn't read To Paradise. To Paradise is the newest novel by Hanya Yanagihara. I have never read her before, I still haven't read A Little Life. I keep meaning to, but it just sounds so sad. I don't have the capacity. I was excited to check out To Paradise, I was bought in by the hype, I asked for a review copy, and then it came through the door, and it turns out it's this big, and so I didn't read it. You've probably read it already if you wanted to. Tell me in the comments what you thought. This is a book that came out like yesterday at the time of recording, and I was really excited to read it. I was really hoping to do a review of it, and just time got away from me. This is a review copy, but I didn't ask for it. My friend Jen sent me this. Anyway, this is Pandora. It's the debut novel by Susan Stokes Chapman, who I found out went to the same university that I did, but she's like about 5 years older than me. I thought it was a Greek retelling at first, just judging from the cover and the name. I thought it was another Greek retelling, but it's not. It's actually a piece of British historical fiction set in the Georgian period, I believe. And it's about a woman who... Do you know, I can't even remember. London, 1799. Dora Blake is an aspiring jewellery artist who lives with her uncle in what used to be her parents' famed shop of antiques. When a mysterious Greek vase is delivered, Dora is intrigued by her uncle's suspicious behaviour and enlists the help of Edward Lawrence, a young man seeking acceptance into the Society of Antiquaries. Antiques. Edward sees the ancient vase as key to unlocking his academic future. Dora sees it as a chance to restore her parents' shop to its former glory and to escape her uncle. Sounds great. This is fantastic. It obviously has Greek influences and is a piece of British historical fiction. Both of those things I have deeply enjoyed over the last year or two. I've read so much historical fiction and so many Greek retellings, so I am really excited for this. It is out now if you want to check it out. This is another January book that was sent to us by the publisher Structo Press, and they're a publisher that we've never worked with before, but this book sounds really great, and I'm really hoping to check it out soon. It's called Wolfskin. It's a Spanish novel translated into English by Katie Whitmore, who's a really great translator, and it sounds like a really quiet literary novel. It's about a woman who's 35, her father died recently, her husband has just left her, her mum lives in a different country, and so she goes down to the Spanish coast to a place that she used to spend her holidays when she was a kid, and her sister joins her, but the two of them have a bit of a strained relationship, and it's about the two of them just living together on the Spanish coast and reminiscing, and I guess it explores their childhoods and their lives up to this point, and it really sounds like a wonderful introspective novel. I'm really excited to check it out. It's exactly the kind of thing that I love to read and review, so I do hope I read it soon. If I don't, and you're interested based on what I've just said, please check this out. Really cool publisher, really cool Spanish novel. I'd love to know what you think. And my last January book is from Influx Press. If you have stuck around this channel for any length of time, you might have heard me talk about Influx before. They're a really great UK indie publisher, and they sent us this. I do believe this was actually published elsewhere, like in the US, for example, maybe 6 months or a year ago, but we have it now via Influx. A Door Behind a Door is a novel by Yelena Moscovich. Moscovich herself is a very interesting character. She was born in the Ukraine, and she spent a long time living in the US and studying there, and then eventually moved to France, and now she lives in Paris. The things that she has studied and the things that she's done with her life have been really interesting from what I've read, and that in itself made me interested in this novel. Oh my god, okay, so my cat is just behind the camera, and she loves my hairbrush, and right now she is brushing her face up against it because I'm not brushing her, and it's making me sad. But if you hear a lot of cat noises, I'm dealing with a lot. She's dealing with a lot. We're dealing with a lot today, me and her. So this book has a kind of Murakami tinge to it. From the blurb, it sounds very urban fantasy. It's got some pseudo-surrealism to it. And it's about a woman who lives in Wisconsin, which is where Moscovich lived when she was based in the US. She lives with a woman who's her partner, but she's received a phone call from a man that I think it says that she thought was dead. No, a man she thought she'd never hear from again. A man from her childhood, growing up together in the Soviet Union, and this brings back a lot of memories. And then the blurb goes into some kind of pseudo-surrealist, as I said, urban fantasy stuff. I really like the sound of this, and I love the title, A Door Behind a Door. This has really got my interest. Okay, on to the February books, and I'm going to start with the chonkiest one. This is not the title. This is the title. This book is called The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. and I think it's his debut fantasy novel. I have struggled with fantasy over the years. I've talked about this before. Fantasy has always been my favorite genre, and yet these days it just kind of isn't. I struggle to read big, bulky fantasy books, but I still try to keep up with what's coming out, and so I was really happy that Orbit sent us this, because over and over again I'm always trying to keep up with the fantasy and sci-fi discourse, community, whatever. So I'm really excited by this. I don't know anything about it. I just want to dive into a big chunky fantasy book if I have time, and I really hope I do. But I do have a funny story about this. We were sent a very tiny copy, and I don't know where I've put it. We were sent like a pocket version of this book. It was like half the size in every way, half the dimensions. The text and the font was really tiny, and I was like, oh god, I'm going to struggle to read this. And then the next day in the post, we got this giant blown up copy. So I have 2 review copies of this book, and it's like a mummy and a baby. I don't know why, but it made me laugh. This coverless, tiny little white thing, this is my most anticipated book for February. Here's why. First off, this was sent to us by Fitzcarraldo Editions, and I worship Fitzcarraldo. I love everything they do. I've talked about them before. You can just go on their website, cover your eyes, click a thing, have it sent to you, and you'll enjoy it. But this sounds like a really, really wonderful little book, and it's absolutely tiny. This is by Jessica Au, who is a Melbourne, Australia-based writer, and this book is called Cold Enough for Snow, and it tells the story of a woman and her mother who meet together in Tokyo, and they just kind of walk around and talk. That's it. It's a conversation between a mother and daughter in Tokyo. But on the blurb, it actually says, who is really speaking here? Is it actually just the daughter? And what is the real reason behind their journey? So it's kind of already giving away a potential twist that maybe the mother isn't even there at all. And I guess it is hard with a book this thin to not spoil things, and perhaps spoiling that isn't part of it, you know? Whatever the case, I am very, very much intrigued by this. The older I get, the more interested I am in the difficult relationships between children and their parents, especially once the children grow up. Once you enter your 20s, 30s, 40s, your relationship to your parents continues to be a very different thing. So I'm very excited to see what kind of a conversation comes out of this. And the idea that the setting is them walking around Tokyo, admiring the streets, looking at the cherry blossoms. It just sounds like a magical little journey, but probably one that's going to be quite difficult and strained at the same time. A perfect little literary novel I can't wait to read. Here's another one I am particularly excited for. This is Oval by Elvia Wilk. This is a science fiction-ish, eco-novel-ish thing. Oval tells the story of a near future or possibly parallel Berlin, where a couple are living in this big eco house and corporations are hoovering up all the real estate in the city, so it's becoming this very terrifying corporate center, which is pretty much the world that we feel like we're on track towards right now. And the crux is that the man of the partnership is interested in this drug called Oval, which increases a person's capacity for generosity. Very, very intriguing. And I guess it's going to explore ethics and our right to change ourselves, change our minds, free ourselves, I guess is a term you might use. I've been reading a few sci-fi novels that explore these themes and these ideas. The Employees by Olga Ravn, Vagabonds by Hao Jingfang. So I'm very, very excited to check out Oval. I think this is going to be right up my alley. This is exactly the kind of speculative eco sci-fi that I'm in the mood for right now. My Pen is the Wing of a Bird. What a title. And this is a collection of short stories, which I love. And it's a collection of stories by Afghan women. This is such a unique and exciting book. There are 10 Afghan women writers in this collection, but there are about, I think, 23 stories. And it is actually the first anthology in English of stories by Afghan women specifically. So this is a very, very unique thing to own. It was sent to us by Untold, and apparently it took 2 years to put together through something called the Right Afghanistan Project. I'm so excited to check this out. A huge collection of short stories by Afghan women. Oh, I love stuff like this. Comma Press are really, really good at putting out stuff like this. Their Refugee Tales series, for example. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I love when it comes to literature and translation. The opportunity to see a part of the world that you don't know much about through the lens of its people, of its artists. Oh, I'm so excited. This is the second novel by Natalia Deliva, and she is a Bulgarian-born, London-based writer. I'm really hoping I have time to read this and maybe do a dedicated review, because this is something really, really cool. I've been to Bulgaria. I love Bulgaria. I love Sofia. It's a beautiful city, such lovely people. And so to have a Bulgarian novel by a writer who's now based in London is just very tingly for me. But it's not going to be a pleasant read. This is a story of domestic abuse. This is the story of a woman who flees not only her home, but her entire country to get away from domestic abuse. And it seems to have a kind of unique narrative spin, which I'm really excited to check out. That's all I know about it. But I hear such wonderful things about her writing and about this book in particular. I've seen a lot of hype surrounding it, and I'm really, really, really hoping that I find the time to sit down and do a dedicated review on this. I've saved one of the absolute best for last. I really can't wait to check this out. This is something that is obviously so up my alley, and something that is hilarious just to read the cover. This is Please Miss by Grace Lavery, and it is a trans memoir. But its subtitle is A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Penis. Oh, I'm excited. I'm actually just going to read out the blurb because it's going to do a better job than I could. A speculative memoir of gender transition and recovery from addiction, refracted through pop culture, queer theory, film, TV, literature, and stand-up comedy. Please Miss is a bold, genre-bending, ruthlessly, unapologetically smart, slyly tender, and laugh-out-loud funny. Oh my god. Oh, an absolute dream. I've read a whole bunch of queer and trans memoirs, and I can honestly never get enough. I always love reading about the journeys of queer people, specifically trans and non-binary people. And yes, please miss. I can't wait to read this one. I really, really can't. Okay, that's all the books that I missed in January and that are coming out in February that I'm excited for. I might have missed some, but these are all the review copies I have. If there are any other books, January, February-ish, that you're excited for that I haven't mentioned, please let me know in the comments, because I need my ear to the ground as much as possible. That's all I have to say. Join my Patreon and subscribe for books.